Hey, good morning, everyone, and welcome to Semel Grand Rounds. I am Larissa Mooney, and it is my true pleasure to introduce my colleague today, Dr. Daniel Dickerson. Dr. Dickerson is an addiction psychiatrist and an associate research psychiatrist at UCLA Integrated Substance Use and Addiction Programs. His research focuses on the development and analysis of substance use treatment and prevention programs for American Indian and Alaska Native youth and adults. He has conducted research as principal investigator on various NIH-funded studies, including Traditions and Connections for Urban Native Americans, Native American Youth Sleep, Health and Wellness, Motivational Interviewing and Culture for Urban Native American Youth, and Drum-Assisted Recovery Therapy. His research also focuses on implementing promising practices for Native American communities. Dr. Dickerson serves on the National Advisory Council for Complementary and Integrative Health. I will now turn it over to Dr. Dickerson.
Yes, thank you so much, Dr. Mooney. It's such a pleasure to be your July presenter in this new exciting year. I'm Dan Dickerson. First of all, I do not have any conflicts of interest to note. Um, just some background. I am addiction psychiatrist. I'm a half Alaska Native from the Inupiaq tribe in northern Alaska. We're part of a circumpolar tribe. So you probably heard of Inuit in Canada. You know, they're our close cousins. So we have in our tribe, if you look down on the globe, looking at the North Pole, you have Russia, Greenland, Canada, and Alaska, and that's where our people are located around the North Pole, literally. Yet I grew up in Long Beach, so I'm whenever I say that, people immediately assume I grew up in Alaska, which yes, I grew up in Long Beach. My dad was stationed in the Army. He's from Kansas, stationed in the Army in Anchorage. Met my mom. And then in 1966, they moved to Texas, where I was born. So I was born in Texas. So born in Texas, and 8 months of age, moved to Long Beach, and where I grew up. So yeah, a lot went on in my first 8 months of life, which I don't recall, of course. But yeah, so it's very exciting to, be at UCLA, be in LA County, as a researcher and as a clinician as well. I'm the first to graduate college in my family. Yeah, so growing up in Long Beach, we'll talk more about the urban kind of picture of Native Americans in urban areas. But that's where a lot of my focus lies, is with urban Native American populations. And with my personal experience, having experienced some challenges with navigating your identity, navigating your life, and really trying to find yourself and prosper, and then all that within the crazy environment of LA, but great environment, right? That'll be part of my story today. I went to Berry College in Georgia, a small liberal arts school, right between Chattanooga and Atlanta. So just imagine a dot right between those two cities. That's where Berry College was. Very different than Long Beach. It was a great experience. I obtained my biochemistry bachelor's there. I'm a DO. I'm an osteopath. Went to Western University of Health Sciences. Many of you may be aware of, in Pomona, great school. I graduated there in '01, and then did my residency at Loma Linda in psychiatry, and then addiction psychiatry fellowship at Yale. And then right after training, I started at UCLA in '07. I also work for an American Indian Counseling Center in Cerritos. So servicing as an addiction psychiatrist. So it's really an honor to be able to serve my community and to conduct research and be at UCLA, focusing on Native Americans and substance use. So before I am the officially the guinea pig for starting some Zoom polls here. So wish me luck here. So we're going to do a poll for those of you online. just a quick question here. I will try to get this on your screen. I have to put my glasses here, which, okay. Question one, if you don't mind, let's see. Actually, I'm going to relaunch the poll. Okay, you may see on your screen now a question. It asks, how much exposure have you had with Native American culture? So a lot, some, or very little. And thank you. We have a lot of people responding here. Looks like we're trickling towards the end. So yes, thank you for answering the question. So here's our results: 68% very little exposure, 26% some, and 2 out of 34, 6% have a lot of experience. So yes, I hope to be able to add to the to some knowledge here with regards to Native Americans and at least as it relates to substance use research and related issues. So, as many of you may know, Native Americans have experienced since since European contact in colonies, and even on the western coast of Alaska with Russian contact, Native Americans have experienced numerous historical-based trauma that includes and is not limited to forced relocations from our native lands, forced placement into boarding schools, an attempt to assimilate Native Americans into society. And many have said in order to quote unquote get rid of the Indian problem, and to make way for the expansion of early US. Unfortunately, Native Americans had not had exposure to recreational uses of alcohol or commercialized tobacco. And so this hit hard immediately in the colonies, and many don't know the history in Russia introducing alcohol to natives and Alaska natives. And oftentimes they would trade furs and like from beavers or from animals for a bottle, vodka or some alcohol. So it's really horrible tragedy there, and it immediately hit hard on our populations. Colonization further had an effect on Native American identity, connections, and then the disbursement of Native Americans over time to urban areas. So as a result, many of our traditional and spiritual practices were impacted. So there was less use of traditional ways, less access to traditional ways, less access to stories of our people and traditions and identity, all the strengths, all the healthy behaviors that Native American traditions really emphasize healthy, well-balanced lives. So this had and has had an intergenerational effect, so a continual effect among Native American people. We talked a lot about stuff on this slide. So many of our leaders, of our community advocates throughout Indian country, throughout the native landscape of the U.S., have more focused on resiliency. So we've previously have focused a lot more on historical trauma and all the really unfortunate effects. But now we're looking more, okay, what can we do for solutions? How can we harness healthy behaviors? And because Native Americans are disproportionately affected by alcohol, cannabis, cigarette smoking, diabetes, obesity. Many beliefs stem from historical trauma. So what could help kind of reverse the trend? And many of our advocates believe that it's through reintroducing, in a sense, our culture, our traditions, our identity, especially in urban areas, which we'll talk about here soon. So resiliency focuses or emphasizes learning about your culture, feeling proud of being Native American, being strong in the face of discrimination and other social injustices, connecting with your family and elders, and participating in healthy behaviors rather than drugs and alcohol or risky behaviors. We have our traditions, or traditionally our people have lived, very healthy lives. And how can we cope and navigate our cultural identity in a way that helps to prevent and or treat substance use. So to go into traditional practices. So when we talk about Native American traditional practices, we're talking about a wide variety of practices and traditions. It could be learning one word of your language. Could be considered engaging with the culture, to all the way to memorizing or a multiple day ceremony, uh, word for word in some tribes. So there's a lot of different activities, drumming, storytelling. These are just some of the ones you would see. Native Americans it's a very diverse population. So you have over 570 federally recognized tribes, many more that are not federally recognized. And they vary in their traditions, languages, customs, traditions, and practices. So these are just some examples of some Native American traditional practices. And in our field, there's for the past couple of decades, there's been a interest and a continual interest in integrating traditional practices and in interventions, and attempting to understand why and how and if they work and are effective. So as I previously mentioned, the benefits could be a healthier lifestyle, renewing your cultural identity, learning about your culture, and socially connecting with others. Native Americans are a smaller population in the US, so it may be more challenging to socially connect, especially in the urban areas. Um, so learning how we could connect with other Native people. Many Native people believe good things happen when we connect and when we're in the same room. So we need more of that as well. So, okay, so we're gonna go to, I'm surprisingly successful at doing poll number one. Here's poll number two. If I could do this, I guess anyone could do this. So here's another question here. What percent of American Indian people live off reservations? I'm going to get the poll up here. Just a sec. Okay, here we go. I hope this is showing up. What percent? More than 87%, 65%, 40%, or less than 20%? I appreciate your very quick response here. Okay, it's looks like we have about a third of you say more than 87%. A third of you say 40%, less than 20%, only 13%. You all did better than I expected. So Native Americans who live off reservations, meaning the strict boundaries of a village, rancheria in Central California, or reservations, actually are more than, now some say more than 90%, literally off reservations, not necessarily urban, but off reservation. So it could be suburban, medium-sized city, large city. So the majority of Native Americans live in urban or off-reservation areas. Um, but yet very limited funds go to urban Native American healthcare. This is due to past treaties that identified relationships between the U.S. government and many tribes through treaties, through formal agreements. And so there's federal recognition of tribes where monies can go much more easily to rather than an urban Chicago, LA, or Dallas, or New York. LA, by the way, has the largest population. LA County has the largest population of Native Americans in the U.S. compared to any other county in the U.S. But yet you don't see, we don't have, you don't see the community as some other ethnic racial groups. So very limited research has been conducted with urban areas, and very limited funds through, some say just 1, 2, 3% Indian Health Service funds goes to urban areas. So there is a definite need of more attention for urban populations. So there are barriers to engaging our people in the urban areas, less visibility, less cultural based discrimination, however, is still present in urban areas. But this all being said, there's there has been a revitalization of culture in urban areas. We have amazing nonprofit organizations that have taken it upon themselves to create urban centers. We have United American Indian involvement in LA. We have Native American Health Center in Oakland, Seattle Indian Health Board. Portland has an amazing place, Native American Rehab Association, really big, impressive places that have a lot of good things going on. So there's a big push, a lot of activity in urban areas, and the population is becoming more visible. So yeah, I think I'll skip this slide here. We kind of talked about this. So we'll go to the studies here that I've been a part of. First is Makuni, Motivational Interviewing and Culture for Urban Native Americans. I just have to mention this very cool logo. We had a Native American artist create this kind of urban kind of logo for our study that kind of embodies like a medicine wheel within a kind of urban landscape. So this was all advised by our Native American teenagers and community members to make something that was both traditional looking but yet urban as well. And I have to really acknowledge Elizabeth D'Amico from RAND Corporation. Many of you may know she's an amazing researcher, expert in many populations, expert in motivational interviewing and prevention work throughout the U.S. And I've been honored to working with her on this study, and the next study I'll present on Takuna, and the amazing team at RAND that I've been fortunate to be a part of. And with conducting research with Native American populations, it's all about connections. So being Native American myself has been easier for me to make these relationships throughout my career, throughout many, going to a lot of, it all started off, many of you are residents, it also, who are watching today. It all started off in medical school and residency, going to conferences, introducing myself to people, really trying to jump on different committees and other activities. So that from early on, it started in residency, trying to, really, it's an exciting period, your career, right? You're establishing yourself as psychiatrist, so it's a good time to start building connections. So I was able to make several different connections. Dr. Kamala Venner in the upper right-hand corner, she's a Native American expert in MI, motivational interviewing, a substance use intervention. She created a Native American version of MI. So I met Elizabeth D'Amico and we applied for a grant through NIAAA. We were funded, and this focused on integrating traditional practices with motivational interviewing. At the time, there was an emphasis on the need, and there still is a need for integrating evidence-based treatments for substance use. For example, motivational interviewing, cognitive behavioral therapy, other modalities, and integrating them with traditional practices or cultural elements. So this was an exciting opportunity for us to blend her work in MI and, of course, as an addiction psychiatrist, being familiar with MI and also traditional practices. So with Native American, kind of a key take home, and with other groups that have been less researched, you really have to get an understanding through qualitative work. So these projects almost all the time begin with qualitative work. We may have an idea as researchers, like, hey, it would be great to integrate MI with traditional practices, and it's like you got to wait, hold on. You need to bounce this off the community, the population. You need to really explore what their feedback is on your idea. So we had our initial idea of this program, a 3-workshop program. So we conducted focus groups. This was focusing prior to COVID, a few years back, throughout California, Southern, Central, and Northern California. And Makune is 3 workshops focusing on making healthy choices and using MI, motivational interviewing, which is really, for those of you who may not be as familiar, really looking to increase your intrinsic motivation to quitting substance use, and through various techniques in MI. So what we did, we created Makune, motivational interviewing and culture for urban Native American youth. And then we created a research design, Makune plus a community wellness gathering, which is a one-time educational community event, versus those who just participated in only a community wellness gathering. These are the many organizations we have relationships with throughout California, who really helped with us physically doing the workshops. We physically did them in San Francisco, Oakland, Fresno, and LA area, Southern, Central, and Northern California. And Native Americans conceptualize health and I think more, even all populations are looking at the integration, physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual health as well, all being combined. Native Americans conceptualize these elements in a medicine wheel. Not all tribes follow this, but we embody these 3 workshops to align best way possible with the medicine wheel. So workshop 1 looks at behavioral health. It's a 2-hour workshop. So I'll back up a second. Each workshop's 2 hours, 1 hour MI, 1 hour of a traditional activity. The traditional activities in workshop 1 is beading. In workshop 2, it's learning about cooking, actually. So cooking in that class. And then workshop 3, prayer and sage ceremony or smudging, widely used spiritual approach for our people, many tribes. And so we obtained the feedback from our focus groups, and they advised us on these activities. And that helped us to hopefully find something that will resonate with the population, that could be bought in, you get buy-in from the population, hopefully be a benefit. And the facilitators were well-known Native American people in our communities who have taught, who are known teachers of traditions and culture for Native people, and who were trained in MI. Elizabeth D'Amico is part of MENT, motivation interviewing I think I forget exactly, network of trainers. We trained everyone. Then I added elements of Native American considerations as well for MI. Though we were able to recruit 185 in-person participants ages 14 to 18, roughly equal male female. Many natives are mixed race, mostly the Latinx populations more commonly. These are baseline risk of substance use, and they're similar to general population rates. And I have to add that the substance use rates with Native Americans could vary by tribe. So some tribes might be lower than U.S. average, some of alcohol, some or even other substances, or higher. But overall, Native Americans are more disproportionately impacted by substance use. These are some more characteristics. Now, we did a separate paper, and I apologize, I don't have a slide on this one. The paper we did, I headed our paper on discrimination. We looked at discrimination and its effects on physical, mental health, and substance use. And we found that 80% or so had experienced discrimination. And these are types this was, we used a scale by Karina Walters, University of Washington, one of our Native American leaders in mental health research. And she developed this scale with her team that really highlights some commonly experienced discrimination with Native people. For example, being mistaken for another race, or other microaggressions, or outright racial discrimination, or it could be more passive microaggressions. So these kind of captured all these different types of discrimination. Before we get to here's another question 3 here. We'll ask this question before we get into this quick part of the presentation. Okay. What are some of the potential effects of perceived discrimination among all groups? Is it higher blood pressure, more alcohol use, high blood sugars, high rates of diabetes, all of the above? Or all of the above? Okay, we have results coming in. The vast majority, I'll end the poll here in a sec. You all right on it. So 97% of you say all of the above, which is true in general, to my knowledge, and from what I've read. Let's see. Okay, I'll try to share here. So 97% of you said all the above. So many may not realize that discrimination can affect actual health conditions and mental health and substance use. Very good. Thanks for participating. Okay, I'll try to move on. Okay, so in this study, by the way, just to add a little bit more to this, many Native in the study, Native young people had participated in traditional practices, so they were connected to some degree with the culture, and many had experienced discrimination, but they did not experience high substance use, depression, or anxiety, which was unexpected due to discrimination being known to affect those areas. So we concluded that a possible reason they may have been protected by the culture involvement, cultural involvement, and connections that helped guarded them against the effects of discrimination and did not then affect them in their substance use or overall behavioral health. So then we did outcomes based on Makuni plus a community wellness gathering versus just community wellness gathering. And there were not significant differences between the two groups on alcohol, drug use, spirituality, cultural identity. Cultural identities, there's not a lot of studies yet done, but how long one's cultural identity, how long it takes, let's say, for your cultural identity to change, I think there needs to be more research on that. But there were no group differences over time, but both remained stable. So there were promising effects in the sense that usually rates escalate during this period of development, but they remain stable and did not increase in either group. So we believe that their connection with their culture, traditional practices, and others natives may have been of help to prevent escalation of substance use. But there's a lot more research that needs to be done. Elizabeth Tomiko has a great website that we've added on to with this program on group MI for teens, and we could get this information to you more later as well. Now I'm going to whiz through our traditions and connections for urban Native Americans. This is a study funded through the HEAL initiative. We're one of two studies focusing on Native Americans funded through this part of the HEAL initiative, Traditions and Connections for Urban Native Americans. Again, we have an amazing elder advisory board. And Benjamin Hill and Janet King sadly passed away, so we hold them in memory since we started the program. They really were amazing contributors to all of our communities throughout California. We again had this study we started in California. Then I'll tell you very quickly, we then changed it to a national based study. So first, this was all designed prior to COVID-19, the pandemic. We designed this to be similar to Makune, a California-based study, but focusing on opioid prevention and other substance use among young adults in California. And these numbers, at the time we had, my apologies, 70%. It's now 90-ish% of natives live in urban areas. So opioid epidemic has disproportionately impacted Native communities. Native Americans have the highest rates of overdose compared to any other ethnic racial group. One difference between with Takuna compared to Makune is that we focus more on opioids for the HEAL initiative, but we also included aspects of social network visualization, social networks, and the impact of your social networks on your use and healthy behaviors, utilizing traditional practices. And this is all due with Dr. David Kennedy at RAND, who's expert in social connection research. He was part of our team. We have a huge team, by the way, on this grant that's just ended. In terms of recruitment, we were able to recruit 541 Native Americans throughout the U.S., ages 18 to 25, from 37 states. And this was, I'll tell you in just a second, it started off in California, but then we made it a nationwide kind of study. And if you look at the lower right-hand corner, you have an example of participants completed a survey David Kennedy had formulated asking about their social connections, if they drink, if they don't drink, if they participate in Native American spiritual practices or don't. And then plops out a computerized visual you could look at, like of your own people that you interact with. and they'll even show different clusters of people. So, an example, and we had a lot of college students. You might have people you drink with on weekends, people who are you study with, and only do homework with, or family, or so different types of people. So it would show kind of different aspects of your social connections. Um, so yeah, this is a very silly. I mean, I apologize for this super silly question. But, I'd be the worst, probably, board examiner ever. Um, okay, let's get to poll 4. But it's more mainly to just get at a point here. Um, yeah. So among Native Americans, all the following are important considerations as relates to social connections. Is it understanding the social connections who are practicing Native American traditions, who eat pizza, um, or who use cannabis, or social connections who, um, uh, wait, who have ever lived on a reservation. Yeah, interesting feedback. I'm beginning to think there might be different ways of looking at this. Um, Yeah, so 71% of you had my intentions correct, but this could be kind of a social thing now that I think about it. Eating pizza might be a good thing, actually. In some ways. So social connections, whether or not those who you hang out with or engage in spiritual practice or not, smoke or use cannabis or other drugs. Or we believe if you have social connections who've ever lived on a reservation, that might be important because you could connect with someone another Native American person who has some knowledge of the culture, and that could be a good connection to have. So we looked at social connections in our study. By the way, we don't have our final outcomes yet, but we're in the middle of actually getting them all analyzed as we speak. We did a lot of focus groups to get feedback on the content, and this was another 3-session program. Uh, okay, so here's the interesting part of the story. So, and many of you could probably relate for sure. So when COVID hit, it just threw a big wrench into our research, right? We couldn't do anything in person anymore. We have all this stuff we have to do. So we met with our community advisory board, our community members, and they said, "Hey, why not virtual? Do things virtually." I think a lot of people can, change to virtual of everything. So we retooled our program and made virtual. We pre-tested quickly, made a virtual version of our program of our 3 workshops, similar to Makune, which includes the traditional practices were storytelling, um, and healthy foods and spirituality. So we connect different areas of well-being. And the virtual program, when we did that, we're thinking, wait, we could do it anywhere, right? Virtually. And with Native American urban people being very diverse. For example, in LA, there's over 100 tribes of Native Americans that exist. So I don't know, like San Francisco has more than 80 maybe tribes that exist. So there's a lot of heterogeneity. So we thought we could do this nationally. So we opened up our recruitment nationally, and that's how we were able to recruit so many participants, mostly from the West Coast, because that's where we kind of had our focus initially, but we were able to get people from 37 states. So Lisbeth, D'Amico, and I, we would listen, do quality checks on the facilitators, and they're in the same workshop. There might be someone from Alaska, Texas, and Minnesota on the same call, and that was very interesting to hear different. But yet just from anecdotally from what we heard, they voiced similar impressions about their experiences living in urban areas. So it's very fun to see all that happen. These are some results that we showed that we did some initial analysis on social connections, and this may not say it so clearly, but on the left, these are your social connections. If you had social connections who were heavy drinkers and regular cannabis users and did not participate in traditional practices, then as a participant, you had in our study, you were more likely to use cannabis and greater intentions to use substances if your social connections were heavy drinkers and did not practice traditional practices. Yet, however, if you had on the left side, if you had social connections who participate in traditional practices and did not drink heavily or use cannabis, you had decreased significantly chance of decreased intentions to use substances. So those are some quick just examples of what we're able to begin to see in social connections. We have a ton of papers coming out. We have our final outcomes paper that's being prepared. So our next steps, part of the HEAL initiative is implementation. They want to get interventions out quickly to communities. So we're working on some implementation work. We're in our no cost extension year, so this is the very end period of our study. But we had high satisfaction rates. We also, I think I have 1 minute to go. We also change our 2 hour, these were 2 hour interventions, and we created a 1 hour intervention midway towards the end because we're having some challenges with as the world started to open up again, there were less people attending the virtual 2 hour of time workshop. So we changed it to 1 hour, and we're comparing the outcomes of we were able to recruit enough 1 hour participants we're doing analysis on if it matters if the program's 2 hours or 1 hour. So we're fortunate to get enough of an N to where we could analyze that, and that might have implications for implementation later on. So in summary, we've been successful using community-based participatory research and relationships. That's where it all begins. Focusing on traditional practices to start some research in this area. And yeah, and we will continue forward. Thank you so much. I think I'm 1 minute early even. So this is my contact if you have any questions or like any additional info as well later on.
Thank you so much, Dr. Dickerson, for your interesting talk, including elements of your career trajectory and noting that your research really highlights the importance of culturally informed adaptations to interventions for substance use disorders to improve access and engagement. I am happy to facilitate the Q&A from the Q&A box. There's a couple of questions, and others are welcome to submit questions as well. First is, has anyone documented the lifespan before Western contact and then now after centuries of Western contact? Were there really that many elders to claim that their lifestyle gave longer lives? Question mark, maybe
Right.
it's here or harder but shorter.
Yes, that's a great question. I don't have the answer to that. And I think lives were shorter, if I recall. I know I could get back to you on that. Dr. Everett Rhodes, one of our leaders in Association of American Indian Physicians, historical leader of ours, is in retirement, I believe, wrote some really interesting books on how life was in terms of our health, Native American health, prior to European contact. So the trajectory, uh, don't quote me on this, but I think it's improved just, with modern medicine and other services. But I'd have to get more info to you on that. But we are, compared to other ethnic and racial groups, we are more impacted in these areas, to my knowledge.
Thanks so much. Next question, could you clarify why the percent of good mental health levels didn't add up to 100%? I think that was from an earlier slide.
Good mental health levels. I'm trying to remember which that might have been the McCooney study. Um let me
Yeah, the
think.
slide number isn't listed here, so we may have to.
Yeah, I could dig into that further for sure and respond later.
Okay. Next question. Is there any data on how many of the participants were from California tribes versus those who came to California from other state tribes?
We that's a great question. We did not do analysis on tribal affiliations just to as an really to try to protect tribal stigma and tribal identity, and other researchers have followed some of that same avenue. But no, we did not make those comparisons.
Okay.
Although I must say, California tribes in California, California has the largest population, I believe. I'm almost very positive, has the highest population of Native Americans. There are some studies that are being started. Even here at ISAP, we have an amazing suicide prevention study that we're assisting with many California tribes. So we're trying to enhance research um, as well in California, and getting more of the voice of California tribes, both in rural areas and urban areas.
Okay, thank you. Another question. So glad to hear about your continuing work. Just wondering how people bring the lessons from your projects into their own unique tribal cultures.
That's a good question. I think it's really setting the stage for voices to be
Mhm.
heard. I think there's a lot of suppressed stories from Native American people and communities who haven't had a comfortable space to express some of these sometimes very deep hurts or traumas that affected their own families, in the recent generations. So it's really trying to create this kind of sense of safety and comfort. And thankfully, even in our workshops, our facilitators created, the tone of the group was very nurturing, or very respectful. So kind of creating that space for community forums, because I think we need to, within every community, it could be different. So whether you're in Northern Cal or Colorado, some, tribe reservation there. It's really trying to get the voices heard first. And elders, we could learn a lot from our elders in the community. So together with the community and elders, that begins a good conversation.
Thank you so much. One more from me, just kind of thinking about your work over the years. Any thoughts about, synthesizing your own work and others? What are future research needs, gaps, or treatment gaps um, for substance use disorders in American Indian and Alaska Native populations?
Yes, yeah, there's, we've done a lot of work with cultural integration, or some work. Um, but there is a need with regard to, there's a need for like your amazing work with medication assisted treatments. There's more of an implementation
Mhm.
uh, issue with Native Americans. We know MATs work really great. So how can we deliver them, more broadly, right? That's across all populations, but also Native Americans. But it's also trying to understand what is it exactly about traditional practices that's helpful. Is it just being able to hang out with other Native people? Is it a neurological benefit through your engagement and in some of these activities? Does it help you enhance your neurocognition? Is it what is it about what aspects of traditional practices are helpful and are responsible for good outcomes?
Mhm.
That's one part. There's a shortage of genetics research as well.
Yeah, okay, so that future work to come.
Yes.
Um, all right, I don't see additional questions at this time, so I want to thank everybody for your participation today and Dr. Dickerson for your wonderful talk, and we can conclude grand rounds. Everyone.